That's it. Or
Check that.
So if you're watching and you'd like to ask a question, then log into the chat room, ask your question, and we'll begin. Last week we had some participation from all over the country. It was delightful, great questions. One group in California took advantage of the video chat in a clever way. They had a group meeting, and the entire group gathered around the video screen and observed the answers to questions that way, where one member of the group asked the questions and then everybody else observed the answers. It's a smart way to do that. I went to a live Real Love group here in my hometown just this evening, just got back from that, and I'm consistently impressed with the effect that Real Love has on people's lives. There were, I don't know, probably 15 people there, and there are people there from quite a variety of walks of life, couples, single people, professional people, non-working people. And it's impressive to watch people go from a place of anger and isolation to a place of relative peace as they describe the truth about themselves. One lady said, so what do I do? I'm alone, I'm angry, nobody cares about me, what do I do about that? And I said, well, you've begun the process already, just as you described your condition. She described the fact that she's kept people away from her all of her life by being caustic, witty, protecting herself. And I suggested that instead of doing that there in the group, she described herself as alone, unloved, empty, afraid, and she did. And as she did that, and as the people in the room simply accepted her, she felt more peaceful. She felt less tense. She felt more accepted. Something that she really hadn't anticipated, and something that you really can't explain to somebody until they feel it. Real love is an interesting principle, to be sure, but far more important is that it's a power that literally changes people's lives. We can talk about real love all day, but until people actually experience it, until they experience the healing power of it, the talking alone really isn't beneficial. It heals wounds, it changes the past, it heals relationships, it creates the kind of happiness that we've all been looking for. So that was fun to watch. We did that with couples, we talked about parents. There was a married couple that talked about their marriage, and their marriage is in terrible condition. In fact, at one point he was pretty expressive in describing his anger and frustration in the marriage. And he said some really angry things to his wife, who was sitting 2 feet from him, and saying that he was fed up to the point where he even said, you can pretty much walk away and don't let the door hit you in the butt. Well, it would have been real easy for her to take that as an attack. And what I did was suggested that instead of see the anger in him, that she see that what he was doing was entrusting her with sharing his pain. He just radiates pain. When we can see that behind every ugly, selfish, what appears to be mean-spirited behavior that people exhibit is pain, is emptiness, is fear, it can dramatically change the way we respond to people. Pretty much everything in life is either love or a cry for love or a need for love. It really is all about real love. And when we see that, instead of looking for conflict, instead of looking to take things personally, instead of looking to be offended, sure does change the picture of life. It did for her, did for him. There was also a couple there who were having trouble with a son, and they described a boy, their son, who at school is having all kinds of trouble socially. And so when the mother went to school, I guess on a field trip or some such thing, she had the opportunity to interact with some of his classmates. He's 5 years old, and already he's being described as an outcast, a loner, as having no friends, as engaging in highly inappropriate behaviors with his classmates all the time. This is a kid who in no time at all will be labeled as incorrigible, as a troublemaker. He'll be isolated from everybody else. He'll be set apart. He'll be put in a different class. The kid will be doomed unless people see what he really is. And he's just unloved. His mother and father were raised by parents who had no clue whatever how to love them. And so here are these two people these two parents who were never unconditionally loved by their parents, and they're trying to raise a happy, loved, and loving child. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Much like having two parents who'd never taken a piano lesson in their lives, ever, or had any musical experience or any musical talent, and instructing them to somehow raise a concert pianist without the benefit of a piano teacher. It's ludicrous. You can't give what you don't have. And these two parents are put in a position where they're asked to give a child something that they've never gotten themselves. And then, of course, when their child gets into trouble, they feel guilty, or they maybe even feel angry or critical at the child. And then we begin on a cycle of just endless blaming and destruction that wounds everyone. It all stops when we realize the cause of it. Nobody was loved. Nobody was taught. So the solution is always love. First, these two parents need to feel loved by other adults. They need to be instructed by other adults in how to raise a loving child. And then they can pass that on to their son. But until then, there's nothing really they can do to help their son. And it's going to take time. And in the meantime, they will, to some degree, continue to inflict wounds on their child. Nothing you can do about that. And there's nothing to feel guilty about. All they can do is their best and steadily but gradually improve. So again, I would encourage you, if you're watching and you have a question, log into the chat room and ask your question, because they're two separate functions, watching and asking. We have one chat room participant who's asking whether there are loving groups being started or are already in session in Hawaii. And yes, there's a group that meets every week in downtown Honolulu that I know of. There are groups, unfortunately, all over the country that I don't know about. People read the Real Love book, they watch the Essentials of Real Love video, they begin their groups, and then we don't stay in touch with them. We rather studiously avoid trying to control anybody or tell people what to do. So we discover later on that there are groups functioning all over the place. I know of one in Hawaii, and I'm going to have my producer give you the name and hopefully the email address of a man in Honolulu that's running a group there every week. I don't know of any in Maui, which is where you are, but if you'll send me an email, greg@reallove.com, I'll give you the name of at least one other person in Maui, and between the two of you, you can start a group. That's how groups start. All it takes is one or two interested people, and groups are absolutely indispensable in changing people's lives. You can participate in chat rooms. They're very useful. You can read the material, but actually feeling the love in person from another human being is just monumental. So I really strongly recommend that you start your own group. It's big. This group that I went to tonight has been functioning now for several months. Like I say, there were probably 15 people there. And this has just made a profound difference in these people's individual lives. Lots of single people there, made a difference in their marriages, made a difference in the way that they parent. There's no substitute for feeling loved. When difficult things come along in our lives, if we don't already feel loved, it's usually pretty much too late. We have to have already put in the time to establish the foundation of love, or we're going to fare poorly. So I really recommend to people that they participate in a Real Love group. Real Love group establishes a foundation that keeps us from being washed away when difficult things happen. Out in back of our house here, just not too many feet away, I don't know, 100 yards, there's a river that runs, or a creek that runs in the back of our house. And in the wintertime, sometimes this creek rises as it rains and rains, and sometimes it really rises. And I built a bridge out there 20 years ago. And when I built the bridge, my neighbors and my kids laughed at me because I poured a lot of concrete in the foundation of the bridge. Probably overdid it. But since that time, the water has risen, has flooded over the top of the bridge probably half a dozen times. And even flooding over the top of the bridge has never moved. My neighbor down the creek decided to put up a bridge that was considerably less reinforced. And so one winter the river rose and the water ran over my bridge and his bridge and just washed his bridge straight downstream. Then he came out and in the middle of the floods was trying to reinforce his bridge. Well, it's too late then. And the same is true in our lives. People call me all the time saying, I'm in the middle of an argument with my husband, my wife, my child, my boss. What do I do now? And you know, once you've already lost it, once you're angry and you're in the middle of using getting and protecting behaviors, you're pretty much cooked, you're toast. It's what we do before the crisis that matters the most. It's establishing the foundation. There's a biblical, allegory or metaphor, that when the rains come, if you built your house on a foundation of rock, you'll be okay. The rains will come and you'll be fine. You build it on a foundation of sand, it's going to wash away. And the same is true in our lives. If we have enough real love in our lives, when the rains come, we won't wash away. And that's why it's important that we participate in real love groups, so that we can be constantly adding to the real love in our lives, so that when the crises come, which they will, we'll be prepared for them. So next week we're going to come back Tuesday again, same time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and spread the word to those who haven't yet heard of this new venture that we're doing, the video chat. We'll answer all the questions that are submitted, or as many as we can get to, and we'll see you next week at 9 o'clock. It's been fun being with you.